Hey, you geeks! So much world building, so little Wheel of Time, as it were. Episode 5, Tel'aran'rhiod, was, as anticipated, a step down from episode 4, which is good because in order to get the high points in seasons, you need low points, and connecting time to develop character and personality in a way that high-stakes drama just doesn't convey. I'd say this is about on par with episode 2, knowing that all of my favorite things about episode 2 were things that set up brilliant finishes in episode 3. So it's the next episodes 6, 7, and 8 that are really going to determine whether or not this episode was excellent setup for brilliant payoffs and explosive finales, or was this just more stuff? Once again, we are back on a multiple thread journey, so we will be reviewing this story thread by thread. Full spoiler warnings through the current episode of Wheel of Time, along with book 5 of the series, and vague allusions to things that come after. The Carcarn. Since Rand and Moiraine took such center stage last episode, it's good that their various plot threads kind of got pushed to the side to let other people shine through. Still, we stay with them as Rand visits Cold Rock's hold, and I get what the show is doing and trying to show that even though he's been traumatized on so many levels, at heart he's still an innocent sheep herder by having him kind of play with the children and the little redheaded girl. But I do wish we could have seen him ask the roof mistress for entrance into her hold, with Avienda prodding him all the way. Of course, what we did get of that dynamic was wonderful, really. More, but good. Still more. And I do like how the show is intent on showing us, the audience, that it's Rand's naivete, like a young Taylor Swift who thinks he can save Lanfear, and that is how Lanfear is gaining traction in his dreams. Because no male channeler or even Lanfear, bending the rules, offered to help Rand channel this episode, I'm calling it now and saying that Rand won't be doing any epic displays of Saidin channeling in the finale. I hope I'm wrong, but even if I'm right, second place, having Rand do the philosophical quandary of what or who he is willing to sacrifice to save the world, that can be very interesting. Though, of course, Moiraine is not an innocent per se, could show Rand, who carried her out of Rhuidean no less, truly willingly sacrifice her to save the wheel. Or, more interestingly from a fourth wall perspective, can Rafe sacrifice Moiraine and her star power to save the fandom? Because the show is doing a lot of setup, in this episode especially, for what we know as the end of Book 6. Now, the end of Book 6 can only occur over Moiraine's cold, dead body at the end of Book 5. And I don't know the answer to that question. This show is giving me, as a book fan who knows how the story goes, true tension leading in to the season finale. Now, is this intentionally brilliant or accidentally lucky? How do you feel about this conundrum? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Seriously, they are so helpful. The question of if this show is now intentionally brilliant or accidentally lucky is still taunting me, especially in Moiraine's cold open. I thought at first she was dreaming about using the Tel'aran'rhiod in such a huge manner in the middle of the Aiel Waves, because there's no way she would intentionally light a signal fire to her location knowing that the Forsaken are loose. And then Lan showed up and helped her save herself from burning out through the Tel'aran'rhiod. Nice touch. But Now I'm wondering, now that Moraine has gone through the rings and scenes set on the path of what they showed her must be done to save the world, her impending death, the tower bending the knee to Rand, like she goes to Swan and tells her that, and seems to make peace with her fate of death, even saying that in her next life she will do better, which is so very the point of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, if we can narrow it down so far. So all of those are good things, and it makes me wonder, is Moraine intentionally trying to signal Lanfear to come at her, sis? Or did the show once again just throw logic out the window for the sake of a cool, cold open? I don't know, and only the Wheel of Time itself will tell. Let me know what your thoughts are, again, down in the comments. White Tower. Ooh, the Swan and Elida rivalry is ramping up, and Elida, like so many charismatic power takers of history, harkens back to a time when things were better, because history was always better than the present. And I love how Swan is getting allies like with Varen, and Elida's getting allies like with Alviarin. And interestingly, when they go to interrogate the Black Sisters, they seem to imply heavily that there is at least one Black Sister still in the tower. Who could it be? If you don't know, let me know who you think it is down in the comments. If you do know, shush! Having Elida use the One Power to interrogate and then kill Black Sisters is acceptable. I mean, Elida is that sort of intense person who in the books goes very close to using the One Power as a weapon in ways that other sisters would not be comfortable with. Since that was book Elida, this show Elida, who's even more ruthless and even more unhinged, it follows that she could very well perceive a Black Sister in chains and apparently shielded as a true threat and worthy of her using the One Power as a weapon on. That a gray man pops up so pleasantly to kill the final sister and then try to kill Elida herself does pleasantly confirm that Elida is not a Black Sister. And Luke wasn't in the Two Rivers, so I need to rewatch that.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, I just rewatched the scene, and X-Ray lists the Gray Man character as Jacob Carradine. So I guess he won't be showing up in Tanchico now that he's dead in the tower. And I'm kind of bummed about it, actually. And this means that I can't read into with intrigue Lord Luke's somewhat suspicious disappearance from the Two Rivers timeline. Yeah, I don't know if it's too soon to call these guys another Barthanes Damodred plot from season 2 that could have been so interesting and then just wasn't. But on the positive side, I do like that Swan did come in and save Elida, because now Elida, while not a Black Sister, can do something truly dastardly in the future in the name of the light and preserving order, which is exactly that kind of gray middle ground that Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time was so good at establishing. I want the show to do more of that. Please. Sea folk. Like the wise ones of the Aiel, the show don't have time for the sea folk to be super effective at their secrecy. And really, the early book sea folk aren't as persnickety as the later book sea folk, and even the later book sea folk was a lot of skirt shifting for not a lot of payoff. So I'm okay with them fundamentally making it easier for Nynaeve and Elaine to gain passage, along with Matt and Min. And I do, like, this seems like the sort of detail that Robert Jordan had baked in his books this whole time, but I never noticed that the reason why Nynaeve would have a problem with the sea is because she doesn't take change easily. She is rooted in her spot and in her ways. This is the kind of detail, like Elaine always having a problem with her veil sticking in her mouth because she walks around with her nose in the air, is so Robert Jordan that I do appreciate the show for, if not teasing it out, then they just made it up, but they made it up so convincingly that I buy it now. Especially because this establishes, for the first time in forever, that Nynaeve, like every other character, has character flaws. Like, finally, we're admitting it. Nynaeve's block is not a good thing. It is a flaw that she must overcome. And the Sea Folk are helping her overcome it. They show her a way to wield the one power that is not unique to the Aes Sedai. Especially because Nynaeve hates the Aes Sedai while also on her journey to become one of them. Like, it's so complicated. And seeing the alternatives of weaving is so great. Though, of course, it's Elaine who gets really smitten with the idea of becoming a sea folk windfinder, though I think it's more out of her longing for adventure and doing unexpected things like Avienda. And that's very true to early books Elaine. Like, Elaine was always rolling with the punches in the early books, always playing diplomat and being a bit of a nerd and know-it-all that we see again here. So yeah, Elaine's on point, Nynaeve's on point, Matt is 11 out of 10 Matt-ing right now. Even though he wasn't here in the books, he is totally taking this just as Matt would, even downplaying the effectiveness and certainty of Min's viewings. Like, I'm not sure if Min clarified to Matt that she didn't actually see him kill Rand so much as specifically stab him with the dagger in the very way that he would go on to stab Rand with the dagger in the season 2 finale. But also, Matt denying that Rand is the Dragon Reborn implicitly, like, that's some true Matt level, like, nope, this ain't happening kind of self-denial. And I like to see that in the Two Rivers folk. That's good. Good for plot and character development. Lastly, Min on the boat, like, she's not perky book Min yet, but she's halfway between that sullen drunk we met in season 1 and almost to perky. Like, she's helpful, she's a good quest mate, she's going to use her elder knowledge to help these young whippersnappers through their trials. Like, I'm on board with this. This is going a good direction, even if it's not into Jacob Carradine. Bummer. Two Rivers. So, the show does Perrin best with little scenes that tell a lot of stuff. Like, early scene with him and Fael. Him and Fael discussing who's going to go into the White Cloak camp. Like, those are built up, like, you can tell stuff has happened, and this is just a crucial scene to move the plot along. It's when the show stays with Perrin that too long, where the editing just really does not do him any favors. Because once Perrin goes into the Aiel camp, his timeline seems to break with all semblance of reality and timeliness in every other character's timeline, including Alana, who's allegedly, like, a few hundred yards away. Rand has a whole dinner and dream sequence in the Aiel Waste. Alana, the White Cloaks also in the camp have time to gather a squad, go out, stalk, hunt, and shoot Alana. Alana has time to fight them back, and Maxim says that she dropped the bond like 5 hours ago. So, are the show actually saying that Perrin wandered around the Aiel camp for 5 hours in the fog. Now, it's established both in book and show that plebeian-level white cloaks have a natural perception score of -5, and we see that. But Perrin's supposed to be keen-eyed. Like, how did he just not navigate his way out of the fog in less than 5 hours? Like, oh my gosh, show. Arguably, having Perrin's timeline be separate from all other timelines in the story is also precedented by the Wheel of Time books themselves, but the show ain't got the chops to do that yet. I'm sorry. But if we remove these scenes from all semblance of time, space, and reality, I like them. Alana and Maxim having Aes Sedai warder troubles is a good Robert Jordan theme. An Aes Sedai without her warder is a tragedy. A warder without his Aes Sedai is dead. Or something like that. And it's great that Alana has specified she is in the Two Rivers to make an army, to find powerful channelers, because that is what she said she was doing in the books. And now we also see the tie-in of the Cawthon family. Someone seems to have great raw power. Is it Natty Cawthon who said she did it and then was summarily fried by the White Cloaks? Or could it be one of Matt's little sisters? Let me know your guess, if and only if it's an actual guess. I do appreciate the change of having Natty Cawthon be killed by the White Cloaks. Not only have men finally done something dastardly on the Wheel of Time, yes, but also this puts Bornholt Jr. on a equitable footing with Perrin, who killed Papa Bornholt in a blind rage of battle where it was morally gray, and now Junior Bornholt did what his order believes is right to burn the witches. But if Natty Cawthon wasn't the actual witch, then even by his order's standards, he done messed up. So this great moral turpitude between these two gives the show's lore something to work with in a way that I thought they had kind of cut off when they made Morghese a ruthless leader at the beginning of episode 2. Like, what they have taken away, they've given something new. And this new is not completely out of line of Robert Jordan's world building, so color me intrigued, provided that they can pull off the Perrin arc. Now, part of me didn't think they were going to get a whole bunch of extras together to storm the White Cloak camp because they ain't got the budget for that. But without Perrin kind of accidentally becoming a leader of men on this little outing, it's gonna be a lot harder for him to oops his way into village leadership. And Lopin is quite concerned that Amazon may not be able to pull this off because they still don't really have the gravitas and momentum in Perrin's personal arc yet that I hoped they would establish at this time. Still, at least they got the Cawthon girls out, and I can say, well, things would have been better if Gaul and or Tam were there. I was pleasantly surprised to see Child Bayar get name dropped and be physically there, but I'm also confused that Padon Fane wasn't. He is on the posters and he hasn't shown up yet. Where is he? He can't be in Tanchico because he shares the poster with Dane Bornholt, so he's gotta show up in the Two Rivers at some point soon, right? Not to mention, if they're hiding Padon Fane for the finale, maybe they're saving Tam for the finale as well. If Tam comes, that would help me buy Perrin's arc to leadership so much better than what the show has done with him up to this point. But his Fael relationship, especially in his dream, is very cute and very endearing, and I like it. So it's not all bad. I just want more, but better more. Tel'aran'rhiod. We are seeing the full world of dreams in its magnificence, I must say. Like, I did not expect the show to have the clothes changing sequences, and the impractical clothing changing is like, yes, more, but also fine. But wow, like, that was great to see, and the people glancing into it as we saw them running around. It was a bit eerier than I expected, but also that is a completely legitimate interpretation of what Robert Jordan wrote, and it was beautiful. The wise ones were maybe a bit too trusting of Egwene to not just spirit herself away once they told her how to do that, but this is the show, things are moving pretty fast, so yes, Egwene's dream walking training is going to be on fast forward, and that is fine because we're actually getting it. Yay! Moiraine being able to reach the world of dreams, or perhaps just dream hopping with Egwene's help, is iffy lore-wise if she doesn't have a Tel'aran'rhiod that help her do that, but Moiraine is actually using the dreams to be a cell phone and communicate important information to other characters in the world. Like, one could argue, Robert Jordan's characters would never do something so foolish, but also, Robert Jordan's characters spent 5 books walking around in circles, not talking to each other, though the end of the world was imminent. So I'm good with this, especially because Moiraine, even though she goes and talks to Swan, doesn't really say everything she could say. I mean, they have the nice idea of, yes, in our next lives we'll do better. They're both going to be dead before the season is out. Isn't that tragic? Then when Egwene goes and dream hops, again, dream hopping is something that took her a while in the books, but we ain't got time for that, people. And she even demonstrates some weakness, as she could not make herself be heard in Nynaeve's dream. So whether it be lack of skill or lack of ability to communicate, Egwene just hopping from her friend's dream to dream without doing any meaningful communication is still very Egwene. And each of the dreams she sees Matt and his family, oh gosh, it's gonna hurt so much when Matt finds out his mother is dead. Like, I now, like, this is a thread I'm now invested in, and it's a show original. Like, they got me. They got me. I'm okay with being gotten here. This is good. Yeah, all of these dream sequences are just beautiful portraits of these characters that Robert Jordan invented that I am really happy with. All of these scenes right up until she goes to Rand's dream, which we knew was going to happen. The show set that up brilliantly, not only with Avienda and her little Rand prodding saying, oh, poor Egwene, wetlanders don't like to share. Like, that was great because it's from the book. It's a line in the book that has a double meaning, but also, I hope that the show seemed to give it a third meaning as it pointed to the end of this episode, where Egwene realizes that Rand has been cheating on her with one of the Forsaken. And not only that, but the woman who has been torturing Egwene in her free time.
Ryan.
Rachel!
You sure move on fast.
It's not what it looks like, I swear!
At least the show is committing to the cheesy love triangle bit, and I have to respect them for that. Because I can respect stories that are very upfront, like, this is a cheesy trope, and we are going to embrace it. This will be a giant wheel of cheese that you can bite into on any given day for a very unhealthy but delicious snack. I have several books that I enjoy for that purpose. Not on this shelf, and the Wheel of Time ain't one of them. On the topic of cheesy tropes, Robert Jordan had plenty of tropes that would eventually become fantasy standards and almost cliche. But he also was Robert frickin' Jordan and spread them out over 5 books so that you didn't realize that you were starting a story with a farm boy chosen to save the world who was already saddled with a dead wife, even though technically, upon reread that's apparent from the first page of chapter 1, it still take a while to sink in. With the show just fast-forwarding everything, yeah, some of those tropes are going to rise to the surface and be revealed for just how cheesy or cliche we now view them. And even accepting that, this particular trope is a show original, and I feel conflicted. So, let me know if you feel conflicted about it down in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. Or see you next week. Bye!